morning, ladies and gentlemen. The COVID-19 pandemic, which is considered the most crucial global health calamity of the century and the greatest challenge that humanity have faced since the Second World War, has not just affected thousands of people who are being sick and also who are dead, but it has also crippled the social and economic status of the world at large. So today, we're going to be having relevant stakeholders, policymakers, and great intellectuals who will critically formulate solutions to the current challenges posed by the global health crisis, particularly in Plateau State. No problem fizzles away without a solution where intellectuals are seated. You're welcome to the 3rd edition of the Plateau Leadership Summit. Our theme for today is Building for the Future, Post-COVID-19 Development Strategies. Please join me on the red carpet.
It's difficult to say, especially when you talk of Nigeria. It's a global phenomenon. And as long as the whole world has not come out of it, we're difficult to talk of Nigeria coming out of it. Because Nigeria is part of the global system, and Nigeria got affected by COVID-19 because other parts of the world were affected. Now, there's no scientific basis for estimating the time when COVID-19 will be over. There have been different guesses. Some have said earlier that it might last 1 year. But as we progress into the year, this COVID-19 started in Wuhan in December 2019. Now we're in August 2020. There's no sign that it has even come to a standstill. It is still progressing. So even the guess of 1 year for it to be over appears to be an unreasonable guess.
There's a lot to be done in almost every sector. You know that in the educational sector, schools have been closed for like 3 to 4 months. So there's a lot of work to put students at different levels of the educational sector to come back. Even though government has tried to intervene with television, lectures and radio for primary and secondary school students, but there's still a lot of work to be done, especially for the students who are in the vulnerable areas, who cannot even afford light and television. You know, the digital environment requires power, so work will have to be done. And in the future, there has to be some flexibility, because people have to be allowed to bounce back mentally, emotionally, and financially as well, economically. I'm sure the lecture today will further enlighten us on the strategies to build a resilient society.
You can't predict the future until you create it. And this is where we are today. Everybody has been taken aback, and a lot of things will definitely change. The new normal is where we are today.
Well, I believe this is a cross-fertilization platform where ideas are going to be, hatched. I expect that the discussions are going to be robust. We're going to have insightful comments coming in from people who have either experienced the impact of what COVID could have done in terms of the economy, translating it to education as well. So, and of course to leadership. So for me, it's an opportunity to cross-fertilize our ideas and see whether we can become better.
In summits like this, what is expected is people will share experiences. So some other people who have not experienced that will now have a privilege or opportunity to learn 1 or 2 things so that they will remain afloat. In times like this, it's survival first before any other thing. So in your business, you need to survive. In your home, you need to survive, and things like that.
I want to stand on the existing protocol. Ladies and gentlemen, it goes without saying that these are unprecedented times that will require unprecedented measures with the COVID-19 pandemic ravaging on. We have seen fatalities, we have seen fears, we have seen disruptions, we have met with green realities. The current health crisis has made life involved with new realizations, needs, and challenge. And now we must firm up for the future. Our special appreciation is hereby conveyed to the Executive Governor, Right Honorable Dr. Simon Bakolalo, to Edwin Rinkwatz, to Honorable Nathan Lifer, Honorable Dachi Musa Bagos, Malam Alhassan Yakmut, Elder Bitrus Nabasu, for your invaluable support in putting this event together. We extend a huge thank you to the chairman of this edition, the keynote speaker, our esteemed discussants who have agreed to share thought with us this morning. And finally, but by no means the least, the team of rapporteurs who have enormous tasks in producing a summit report. We note with special gratitude the role played by all our sponsors and contributors. Ironically, this is a time more than ever to be more closely bound, but safely so, to the thought and insight soon to be shared and make meaningful contribution thereafter. Thank you all for being part of this third edition, and God bless you all.
After a very deep thought and painstaking analysis of the theme in the light of the current realities, I find it crucial and germane to make the following searing and fundamental observations. One, the theme as coached dwells on post-COVID-19 strategies for socio-economic development. This means socio-economic strategies that should be put in place for development after COVID-19. Permit me therefore to say, the usage of the phrase post-COVID-19 strongly suggests that there were a period that we had no COVID-19. You can call this pre-COVID-19 era. On the other hand, the pre-COVID-19 era refers to the period when there was no COVID-19, as I said. It means the period before COVID-19 pandemic started. During this period, no human being envisaged that there would be COVID-19. This, I say, unless you believe in the conspiracy theory. As of today, statistics has it that the virus has spread to at least 213 countries of the world, Nigeria inclusive. According to the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, the first confirmed COVID-19 case was recorded in Nigeria on 27th of February 2020 from an Italian who was working in Nigeria but traveled to Milan and returned to Nigeria with the virus. It is undoubtedly true that COVID-19 pandemic has had and is still having strong impact on both developed and fragile economies, giving the biggest negative effects on agricultural activities, tourism, trade, industry, you name the others. Therefore, poverty is going to increase, not only around the world, but also in Nigeria. Let us stay inclusive.
I start with a story. I'm going to speak I'll give you a very short story. Somebody, when you sit down, somebody was driving a car, and people were complaining about the way he was driving. People were complaining. The passengers were complaining. And one day, one of the passengers became the driver. And the way he was driving, people started complaining about the way he was driving. And so they asked him, why are you driving like this? And the simple answer he gave is that as the driver, the perception of the road changes. Then what I'm saying, you may be able to see. What am I saying? Leadership, all of us are leaders in our own rights. It's not easy. We need to pray for our leaders. Let me not divert from the topic. The chairman of this occasion has said a lot in a very short period. post-COVID-19. And I can tell you that we must not even wait for post-COVID-19. There is an opportunity in every adversity that you find yourself in. There are people that are complaining about COVID-19. Some people have even died. But I can assure you that some people have found out the opportunities in COVID-19 that they are smiling to the banks with millions of naira. Check, what do you do? What can you do to help humanity? I believe before, we did not used to wear face masks, but so many people are making a livelihood from face masks. It's not post-COVID-19. To encourage the youths to look outward, think outside the box. There's the tendency for people to say, during our time, I know our brother, the chairman of this occasion, and even the keynote address speaker, during their university days, the times have changed. Government work is no longer fashionable. Even when you are gainfully employed by government as a civil servant, it is good that you should have something doing. You should have a vocation, you should have a skill, because nobody will take that skill from you. There's a time that you are going to retire and you will value that skill.
The chairman of this occasion, PS Full SAN, the special guest of honor, His Excellency Right Honorable Dr. Simon Bako Lalong, the Executive Governor, Plateau State, the panel session discussions, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and privilege to deliver a keynote speech at this very important leadership summit. The theme of the summit, Building for the Future Post-COVID-19 Socio-Economic Development Strategies, could not be more relevant and timely in these difficult times when the entire world is being devastated by the effects of COVID-19. As we all are aware, millions of people around the world who have contracted the disease in the past few weeks have lost their lives. I would like to start by congratulating the think tanks and organizers of this summit, particularly in conceptualizing its substance. Well, let me say that history has recorded the fact that prior to this COVID-19, we have had to deal with similar or even more devastating diseases in the world. However, COVID-19, which originated in Wuhan, a town in China, has spread and deepened in over 200 countries around the world, including Nigeria. Major effects of COVID-19 on the Nigerian economy. Yes, with the onslaught of COVID-19, the federal government has developed the ESP, Economic Sustainability Plan, the bouncing back strategy, with the main pillars of real sector development measures, fiscal and monetary policy measures, and then implementation measures. We know that with the COVID and the lockdown, a lot of economic activities were frozen, and therefore the demand for oil had crashed. If companies, corporations, factories are not operating, what are they going to do with their crude oil? So the demand has crashed, and because foreign exchange is obtained mainly through the sale of crude oil, as a country, we are in short supply of foreign exchange.
I see beautiful beautiful places. I see the beautiful roundabout at Oli Airport. I see the famous Terminus Market bubbling. I see pedestrians trekking. I see trailers walking.
The gentle breeze from the Karen Spring in Mango calls my name.
Oh, I can feel the cold breeze from Pamshi. Now, King Senyi, Sole Doles in Azaka and Senyi.
We're blessed.
We're blessed
with beautiful landscapes, yielding farmlands, and healthy livestock. Good people and great leaders. The people are like the melodious sounds from the strings of a guitar. They are able to melt your hearts with their hospitality.
Oh, what are good people without great leaders? A place where the leaders are like the sun that shines a light so bright on nature's face. Plateau can speak of alluring beauty with such impeccable leaders. Plateau,
the
people's pride, like a beautiful maiden, she is elevated. Among her mates, she stands tall. She is a home for all, a home for peace and tourism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. MC. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, I respect all protocol. My co-discussants, great men, and it's an honor for me to sit in the middle. To your own credit, I'm sure the organizers, I want to compliment them for inviting me among great men. When it comes to issues of economy, Nigerians rarely give room to women. But I'm happy that today we are being given the room. So I stand on the platform as a mother, as a sister, as a wife, and one of you. So this discussion is going to be interesting because all of these men are great men in their various endeavors. And our keynote speaker has given us so much. He has spoken much about the economy. I'm a biologist, and why am I here in your midst? The issue of COVID-19 affects all of us, those who are educated and those who are non-educated. Everyone must have been impacted by this pandemic. What happened that the world did not anticipate COVID-19? I would hope that we will discuss in different components of this paper. Different individuals will be discussing components of it, but I observed something. I share in the Gotrin's optimism that we will survive it, that it is not a death sentence, and that we will bounce back. But there's a caveat. We will only bounce back if certain things are dealt with, like our fiscal discipline in spending. If we deal with issues of security, which is preventing people from going to farm, and there's so much insecurity in society at all levels. There's kidnapping, there's banditry. It's a serious challenge, and I hope these will be attended to during this discussion. There are also the aspect of the health and education, which the keynote speaker brought out, and I would like to just make a comment on that, because I think I'm better suited to speak on that. The pandemic actually exposed the weakness and the unprepared state of the Nigerian health sector. Before the pandemic, our health sector is characterized by extensive decay in infrastructure and actually inadequately defined DNA, which is now referred to as the molecular testing laboratories. The same thing with the educational sector. Lack of funding, insufficient funding, even with advice from the international partners. There is funding that is recommended, a threshold of funding that's recommended, but like in Nigeria, we've been performing far below expectation. While UNESCO recommends or advises governments to commit 26% of the total budgetary allocation to educational sector, it was being given less than 10% for years, resulting in underperformance. The same thing with the health sector. There's the Abuja 2001 declaration where governments were advised or they agreed to commit 15% of the national budget to the health sector. Research shows that that was never done. Most percentages were between 5 to 8%. So over the years from 2001, governments were unwilling to commit or to prioritize the health sector. And yet these are the most relevant sectors that would support growth and development of any nation. People have lost jobs, or some are being paid half the rates that they used to earn. That will have an impact, a rollback impact on the entire population. That also needs to be looked at or considered in planning. And last, to say that Nigeria must embrace the strategies of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals to be able to help us survive and build resilient communities or society. Because that strategy lays out achievable goals and it enables governments to be accountable, to have measurable indicators towards bouncing back from the freezing that is orchestrated by the pandemic. And with these few comments, I want to allow my colleagues to make their contributions so that more questions can now be asked. And I want to give, I think I will give the chairman of the Revenue Mobilization Agency to make his contribution.
This great time, a great moment for me, especially at this time that the world is badly affected by this coronavirus, and the need for a lot of things to, as our coordinator of the Forest of the Forest, Dr. Samaya has mentioned, we need to rethink, how to rethink and do things in the new normal. She mentioned that. And the lead paper presenter has done a great justice to what is required of us as a state to really focus to take us out of this pandemic that has come already to be with us. Yeah, we don't know when it is going finally, so we just need to learn how to work out ways of mitigations, ways of surviving it. And so the paper presenter has done a great justice to this paper. Sincerely, it makes my work, even as the revenue collector of the state, very, very easy, because he touched on a lot of areas that borders on revenue. And good enough, his background that was read, he works in a place like that, and he's also working in a very sensitive place. What controls the economy, because money controls the economy. Money controls the economy, and his experience at the CBN and a lot of portfolios that has been read about him has given us a lot in this paper. The paper is well loaded. I was picking points, and I just said, let me just leave it. I may just have to summarize it, because there are a lot. And the areas that has been touched upon,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator and the chairman of the summit, and also the lead speaker and other core panelists. First of all, let me say, because I'm representing someone who is an industrial and human resources consultant, I want to restrict myself to the human aspect. When this pandemic started, the first people that were affected are humans, isn't it? Because we didn't hear of animals, first of all. So they are human beings. The next thing, the human beings that are used to walking around, going up and down, suddenly they are being restricted. So something happened to their psyche, and I feel that government is not really looking at that aspect. Like a mommy from SIP said, the psychosocial effect of the pandemic is not being looked at. And because I'm dealing with human resources, I want to say that too. The fear that gripped Nigeria or Nigerians when the first case was mentioned in Lagos, I'm sure it was like somebody walking on the street. People could feel it, people could touch it, the fear that came. Have we dealt with that fear as a nation? Have we dealt with that fear? Over time, Nigerians, it's true that we are very resilient people. We resisted it, and I'm sure if fear was being spelled as F-E-A-R, today is F-E. The AR is gone because Nigerians have gradually adopted. In Africa, we're blessed that about 70% of African population is under the age of 30. But sadly, in Nigeria, about 23%, we have about 23% of unemployment. In Africa, on the average, it's about 22%. So Nigeria is above the average of Africa. It's a sad story. I was somewhere, somebody said, all the people that are above 50 years should apologize to the younger generations because they brought us to this mess they were in. Permit me, sorry, I use the word mess. But I look at the keynote address. If you go to page, okay, let me see. Okay, page 7, the summary and conclusion. Did you read the first 7 lines of the summary and conclusion? Okay, let me read it on your behalf. It says, COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the vulnerability of the health sector in Nigeria that has further worsened the already known vulnerabilities of the Nigerian economy. Poor governance structure. If there was anything that was very relevant under this pandemic, it's leadership. And we could see that all over, leaders came out to tell their people, this is what you ought to be doing, this is what you shouldn't be doing. Leadership. And then we also find people that came with the truth to tell us, this is how this thing is. So they were communicating facts and truth to us. I went to the village for a condolence, and somebody said, I was wearing my mask. And everybody tried to, typical African man at the condolence place, a lot of people want to shake hands. So I avoided shaking hands. The guy looked at me and said, you're coming from Jos. We don't have corona in the village. Now, that gave me a sense. I looked back and said, it's true. How many corona cases do you have in the remote villages? Or is it that we have not gone to do the testing? As a human resource person, I always speak with posers. But I want to say sincerely that government needs to up our game. Joblessness, people have been sacked. Just yesterday, about 100 pilots were sacked. The other day, it was so many people sacked. I worked in an industry where people were being sacked. Some were sleeping, then you see your sack letter. Or some will walk to the office and then you find out that you cannot log into your system. That means you are sacked. Is that how we should go on as a nation? Other times, like somebody mentioned about historically, at least you go through like a 3 months training on retirement. You'll be told about what to do. But then I asked the question. This was an opportunity for us during pandemic to have statistics. I do not want to go into the argument of how many people were giving palliatives or how many people are not giving. But I'm sure we missed out on statistics. Okay, I happen to work, though I work with the Accountant General's office, but I have, actually I work with the ICT Development Agency. But then we argued that if you say people should come and take 2,000, why don't you ask them to fill a form so that they give you data that tomorrow you work with? ICT is driving on what? Data and information. So if data is not available, I also ask the question, people that are being laid off, how many people are taking data of the people being laid off? I think we should extend the palliative to the people being sacked. And simply because we don't have data, it would have been, as a nation, we say 30 people or 50 people will be retiring in the next 6 months. What do we do for them? Because when somebody is wealthy, that means you have investments that tomorrow you fall back on. Earlier on, the speaker said we had fiscal buffers, when we had crash in 2016, 2018. That's true. What about individuals? How many buffers do we have? The day there's a problem with payment of salary on the plateau, it's going to be war. Because our mind is on the paid jobs. But even if it's on the paid jobs, can you put certain amounts somewhere so that it will help you tomorrow? I noticed that the coordinator is looking at me, so I will stop here. If I have an opportunity again, I'll come back, but if not, thank you for the time.
In mobilizing people who are achieving good results and moving forward. Victor is my son. I love to listen to him in the mornings when he inspires, just before the 7 o'clock news in the mornings. His voice is very encouraging in the mornings. I would like you to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, our guest speaker, and my fellow discussants here. Technology has come to stay. You can't fight it. With a phone, you can get anywhere you want to. But the question is, how do you use technology? Many of us do not realize that there are simple ways. From Facebook to WhatsApp, it's simply a way of posting anything you have. Many of the young people that we have here today talk about the things they can do. Nobody's excited about that because technology has flattened everywhere. They can get it elsewhere. The question is, when you promise, do you deliver on them? Do you actually give those issues? I went for a couple of master's degree at one point, and for those who know Bauchi very well, I've given this story. From the, where you call Gidamai, around Bauchi, there's this massa that has become a very renowned massa everywhere. People go in there. Coincidentally, the son of that woman happens to be my classmate. And we got to school, you know, when we get hungry, sometimes we just go and we tell mommy, we came to greet you, but of course we're hungry, we just want to eat masa. So, one day she looked at us and said, what are you people doing? We said, his master's in business management. And she looked at us and said, between you and me, who is master in business administration? COVID-19 has asked us to do one thing. Change the way we think, because results rule the world. No one is bothered about where you're coming from. No one is going to be bothered about the name. How many people even know a father called Kuchili? Nobody wants to know that. People are running for solutions. So you must ask yourself, what are the strategic solutions that I can deliver? That's all that we're asking for. And for the SMEs, and for example in PLATEAU State, I have asked this question. We did what we call a strategic plan for PLATEAU State. Wonderful document. The Boston group from the United States came and helped in delivering that. And 3 things they said to us in PLATEAU State: agriculture, tourism, and mineral resources, which is mining, practically mining. Now, you can't control mining. And I totally submit to what our guest speaker said. The after harvest handling of our products do not even give us the opportunity to sell. So I'm urging all of us to seriously think about this as a state. What exactly are we bothered about? Because if we're talking about industrialization, it's actually a question of the value chain. What can we invest in as a state? We can't do everything. I've said to government officials, I don't think anybody's asking you to do everything. You cannot do that. But when we take a particular value chain, the particular area we're interested in, we can push it through. And that can actually give us what we want. And for the last thing, for the SMEs, and totally to my the tax man, I've had the real privilege of being asked by the State Advisory Economic Committee to also suggest a few things for the government. And I've asked this question: if the central bank is intervening in SMEs, it only shows you one thing, that interventions will be the way out in COVID-19. We must take a particular sector and intervene. If we don't do that, we can't get anywhere. I give you an instance. Rice today is celebrated. Was it that we were not doing rice and there was no Federal Ministry of Agriculture before? There was an intervention. And I'm asking Plateau State government today, is it possible to take 1% of our internally generated and save it for the SMEs in Plateau State? Central Bank is giving in and is controlling it. Only 300 people were called from Plateau State to be interviewed. And you can't get your people not accepting and generating the capacity to collect this loan. So if the state government can also decide 1%, and from my calculation it looks like just 10 million naira, and I'm using the word just carefully because I know what 10 million naira can do to all of us. All right? So if we have that, possibly we can run with it. But technology is here to stay. Industrialization cannot work without value chain interventions.
Honestly, this opportunity has given us the room to share ideas for the future. We've all agreed that the pandemic has given us an opportunity rather than decimate the economy. And for our state, I would like each and every one of us to say something about what we see for the future in the various aspects. Maybe the taxman will also tell us what you see, what the future of tax will be in this circumstance.
You know, the future of the country, or the future of this state within this pandemic period and after that, as the presenter have well spoken about the need for us to, you know, really be innovative. I'm seeing us moving already, even before the pandemic. The oil are going. So I'm seeing young, productive people engaging into productive activities like the agricultural sector, that the World Bank is giving some, you know, palliative or some intervention, some stimulus to really boost the agricultural sector. I'm seeing a lot of people going into employment. You know, young people this time around, don't wait for a white collar job, and you know, get yourself involved in any activity that will be able to fetch you something. So I'm seeing, you know, an increase in the data of people that as they undertake that, they will now know that they also have a responsibility or an obligation to the society that they live in to contribute. Because, you know, as a people, if we pull up resources together, we'll be able to make, government will be able to make meaningful things with it. So I'm seeing that, you know, happening within the population or within this pandemic in all the sectors that we have. Researching. Technology is, you know, is increasing research. You know, it's bringing people into more jobs because you research on things and other people can join up to, you know, have the industry, if an industry set up, people be employed. So I'm seeing the data of taxable people, unlike, you know, before now that we're relying much more on oil and taxes that will be required of them to pay in the state.
I wish to say again that in the aspect of leadership, the other flip side of leadership is followership. Some of us or most of us are followers to one leader or the other. What about the recruitment process of these leaders? How is it? Because like I said, in everything that we will discuss here, if the people that will put forward, because not all of us will all be there to direct us or to give guidance. If we don't have the right people there, we'll still have problems. Do we set agendas for our leaders? Do we go back to check or until after 4 years? We have the House of Assembly that is supposed to do oversight functions. We have community development associations that are supposed to ask questions. With the recent World Bank intervention in our budgeting system, we now have what they call citizens' input to budgets. The state, maybe they'll just go around the zonal sectors and say, bring your inputs, what do you want to have in the budget? And the people after that, they go back to sleep. Do you come back to ask questions? You told us to put this in the budget. Why have you not done it for us? The issue of accountability. As a state, Kuchili said something, as a state, Plateau State, regardless of who becomes governor, what should be our top agenda? As a state, can we say, number 1 is this, number 2 is this. Let the person, whoever comes to power, do number 3, 4, 5. But number 1 and 2 will be regardless of who becomes governor or who becomes a leader. Because I want to talk about sustainability. She mentioned something about the centers being created now, the isolation centers, or is it the quarantine centers? What happens after COVID? What happens to them? If there are no sustainable plans, that's why we keep falling. And that's why we have so many abandoned projects all about, which has cost us a lot of money. In economic sense, Plateau State should not be complaining. We have seen corpers who have come to Plateau State, or rather core members who have come to Plateau State, and before they know it, they are sending maize, potatoes to their own hometown. They are just a link here. They'll just send money to them, they buy it, and freight it down to them wherever they are coming from. What about our youths? What are they doing? And sadly, let me also do like Kuchili will say, Suzo Garimu Swing Adziki. So where were you when they are making Adziki in your own gari?
You talked about leadership, emerging leaders tomorrow. You talked about leaders emerging tomorrow. What will they talk about Plateau State? You cannot become the governor of Plateau State without having a full grasp of COVID-19. Where are the politicians here? Where are they? If it was a political rally, they would fill up this place. Where are they? Oh, I don't know that the chairman is into that. I'm excited. And I'm very serious about what I'm saying. You cannot lead when you do not know the issues on ground.
My question will be directed to Prof. Yes, Prof, I'm a biochemist. I'm a student here at the University of Jos, and I know a lot about the nature of RNA viruses. If we look at the Ebolas of this world, the hepatitis C, and even the HIV viruses, the HIV virus, up to now, a vaccine have not been developed for any of them. And I came across it in the literature about the research carried out in Wuhan during the detection and isolation of COVID-19. What actually broke my heart was when I saw that COVID-19 is an RNA virus, which I know they have very high rate of mutation. So Prof, I don't know if COVID-19 is going to go the way of HIV, hepatitis C, Ebola of this world, or should we just sleep and wake up that maybe we'll be greeted by the news one day that a vaccine has been developed for COVID-19? Because I know a lot of funds and time have been channeled towards ensuring that a vaccine is developed for COVID-19. Thank you.
My question goes to the chairman of Plateau's internal revenue. I'll be talking from an informed decision. I work with data, and I work with young people and women. I don't know what we are talking about post-COVID-19 social economic development. I don't know what is your office doing to alleviate, or what have you done in terms of corporate social responsibility to some of these payers, taxpayers, particularly in the community, in the rural area. Because quite sure that I've seen some of them coming to Plateau, paying this, paying that through Ministry of Commerce and Industry. But what have you done today? If there is nothing we have done today, please, I'll beg, if you can, we have data. We have people who have paid of this money. Even somebody selling masa on the road, we see collectors. Please, let's reach out to them and see what you can do for them. Thank you so much.
I would have loved to ask a question for Sumaya Hamza, but she's not here because I wanted to know the criteria they use when giving palliatives, and they say the poorest of the poor.
Thank you.
Because it seems as if in the whole COVID-19 era, I have not heard my brother's friends, cousin, nephew, auntie getting that palliative. And yet, day in, day out, we hear huge amounts of money being given to ghosts that we are yet to identify.
Thank you.
It is very sad.
Thank you. You know, within this pandemic, as I said, we have no work. And I always said it. Road safety, VIO, revenue board, if people are not doing anything, if people are not in any productive activities, then we have nothing to do. With the law that yes, you collect, then you collect from who? If people are not in business. So we are very conscious of that, and we know that our functions relies on people doing things that fetch them income, and it's expected that as a society you pull up the resources, because we work on trust. Is the trust of people, investment, to really give it back to them. So government has noted that even during this pandemic, we carefully help most of our taxpayers, even during the pandemic. Like within the agri sector, many of them were complaining of their egg, their beds, those lying there. And at some point, even the people that cultivate perishable things, they contacted government, and there were ways of how those those business people were able to be helped to really get out of the wastage that could have been with their products. So it's one of those things, and as a service, we've taken some deliberate steps to make sure our taxpayers stay alive and they stay strong. When we noted that part of some of the protocols were like these face masks, hand sanitizers, we produced that, and if you are in our office for a business, we give it to you. We give it to some group of people through their unions to really reach out to people, because we want people to stay alive, to stay strong, so that they can continue in business. So that we've done that very well. Yeah, among many other responsibilities that government have. Remember that education is not the only sector that the government have that must be. But what we are trying to say is that yes, education and other sectors that government need to intervene in. Government is trying in some other ways. But for the private schools, because you are so specific on private schools, government have an approach also for private schools. It may have not touched you as a particular school. But there are mitigations that government have to also, some of the private schools that we have. We're not saying that it's completely zero.
Hello, thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, sir, we have an all-night question right now to the Revenue Board Chairman and representative of the Plateau State Government. What measure does Plateau State Government have in place to boost productivity of startups and businesses on the Plateau during this COVID-19 pandemic?
In fact,
that guarantees the Revenue Board Chairman prediction.
Thank you, sir. For the startups, businesses coming up,
coming from Sharon Daman,
businesses coming up, we are nurturing them. We want them to stand strong. And for the purpose of tax doesn't just come in quickly when somebody starts business. We need to see how you are standing sound and declaring yourself, to the authority before we even start taxing. So we encourage people to really come up for businesses that are starting. Come up and register yourself. Let's know that you are in business in the first place. I think what many people don't do is
as we are talking about data now, if people go into business, they hardly notify the authority. Like for the private school, I cannot see a school coming up without registering that yes, he is in the business of schooling. And so most of the businesses don't do that. But if you register yourself and we know that you are in operation, and we know that the business has just started, 1 year there was no profit, the books are there, the issue of tax will not even yet come in. Tax will not come in yet. Let's see you standing. Even government can even allow you for 1, 2, 3 years to run business. But what happens is the data on most of our own operations are always hidden. There are people that are making millions of naira that they hardly disclose what they are doing in the first place. So those things always make the tax people to say, okay, based on what we know you, if we get your registration from CSC 3 years, 4 years ago, and you are saying you are just starting the business today, you are already lying. So those are some of those things that we need to get. But if you register your business 3 years ago and you have been in business and you'll be reporting that you are making nil returns, let us see that returns be filing in our office and we'll be keeping track of you. So those are the things that is there. So, but if things are done normal, sincerely, the tax is about people having income, having profits from what they are doing before it can even be taxed. But the bottom line mostly is there is no information on transactions of people. There are a lot of high net worth individuals that have a lot of businesses hidden. Just declare yourself, come up and say, I am Mr. X, I am just starting this business. If we know that very well, tax will not just come in.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Then, so beyond the fact that the leader will know an everyday life situation or be able to do 1 or 2 things, one other thing that has become critical, especially now, is the empathy of the leader. The capacity of the leader to put himself in the shoes of the people he is leading. Once a leader doesn't do that, then he's not going to get the followership that he deserves. Once there is a disconnect between the leader and the follower, a problem comes in. Stand in what you say, that you are truthful about what you say. But if a leader says something today and tomorrow he says another thing and he damns the consequences, then we are running into troubles.
Okay? This is World Bank ranking based on parameters such as access to roads, availability of water, electricity. So many parameters are considered. Income per household, so many things. There is a team that does the targeting. When the team goes there, just like what he has mentioned, they engage with the community, explain to them, together with the community, and define what poverty means within their context. And the community members will be the ones to identify the households that fall within this definition. After that has been done, a data capturing will take place. Biodata of all the households will be taken. There's a GPS in the device, so that if household X is captured, household B cannot be captured in the same point because of the GPS.
Thank you for your patience and your presence here. It means a lot that you stayed to hear this. It says a lot about us that we're here to share ideas, and we've spent almost about 6 hours here. So while there will be a comprehensive report for this PLATEAU Leadership Conference, we just want to say that all the things that we have heard today have been points of engagement, not just for here, but for the hereafter. In Nigeria right now, there are about over 40,000 people who are affected by this virus. There are about 1,200 in PLATEAU State, and over 900 people have died in the country so far. And this is the good news. The bad news is that what is happening is going to hit on our economy really badly. There's a looming recession, and we have been told that it's going to be the worst that has ever been faced in about 40 years. And if we're not careful, we may slide into depression. Jobs are being lost, companies are folding up, and there's all of the bad things going on. But we need to know that in all of this, there's a way forward. It's not the first time an epidemic is happening in the world, and it's definitely not going to be the last. And our optimism, even though we should be optimistic, it has to be guarded and guided. And that's what we've been here to do. On a personal note, we said that there has to be the rekindling of hope and resilience. We need to know that this would pass. We need to adapt. There has to be personal development. We have to think about creativity, innovation, and skills acquisition. We have to identify the opportunity in the adversity, to know that there are people who are cashing out big time already on the things that are going on. And then we have to take advantage of the interventions. When our keynote speaker asked how many people had gotten the NISA loan, I was surprised to see just one hand up. So we need to know about these things so that we know how to get them. On a community level, we also need to know that there are big implications.
We just want to appreciate Inde Dauda Godwin, former Director of Human Resource Services, CBN Corporate Headquarters, Abuja, the keynote speaker. Thank you, sir. We appreciate and celebrate you. Mr. Victor Kuchili, author, lead development consultant, Choice Concept Network, JOS. Thank you, sir. We celebrate you. The lead discussant, Professor Patricia Lau, Professor of Medical Microbiology. Thank you so very much, ma'am. The representative, and he did it so very well, of Mr. James Mataru, my gate, Mr. Manuel. That was very, very, very detailed. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Also, the Executive Chairman, Plateau State Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Dashe Dasogot. Thank you so very much, sir. Dr. Hamza, we celebrate you, ma'am. The able chairman, we celebrate you. And at this junction, ladies and gentlemen, the rapporteurs who did justice to everything that was so apt. Please put your hands together for that.